So the Northman is a pretty typical Viking story, I'd say, which is kind of weird to say because it's not like Viking stories come out like every other week, but when they do, they kind of tend to do with vengeance, as a lot of other history movie do as well. So you're not gonna get the most inventive movie ever, but it, that being said, I'll still run through it so you'll get an idea of what it's about. Basically, the father of Hamlet being our main character, is killed and his son is forced to flee until he's old enough to return and avenge his father. Sounds familiar? Well, that's because it probably should. Because like I said, this is definitely not groundbreaking storytelling in any way, shape, or form. But I don't think that's what the movie was going for. I think what makes this movie special is that it must be a gold mine of references for people who actually know about Norse mythology and Viking culture, or at least I assume so, because this movie seems to faithfully create, or recreate rather, Viking customs. Now, if that isn't the case, well, they definitely fooled me, because they do a lot of weird shit that seems like back then it would have made sense. So it's like you gotta kind of suspend your notion of disbelief and be like, okay, this seems maybe ridiculous, but maybe they used to do this before, so you just kind of assume that's what they did. And I find it interesting that the movie has the ability to make you doubt your own judgment. But from the very small amount of knowledge that I have about Viking culture, it somewhat checks out. The things that I could, I knew if they checked out or not, they kind of did. So I'm assuming that they didn't make shit up in one area and then were accurate in the other. I'm assuming that they were accurate all around. If so, good job to them, because it literally felt like a period piece. It was supposed to be a period piece, but I mean, it felt very accurate. I didn't see any anachronism or anything like that. The characters, mostly the men, are very animalistic in nature, and they really play up the whole like dying a warrior in order to ascend to Valhalla thing. Which, again, it's a Viking movie. I completely expected to see that, but it's very, very important to the story, and it's one of the main reasons why our main character doesn't stray from his path. He's extremely focused on his objective, and it's not until he really gets involved with one of the slaves, who's played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who's called Olga, that he starts to soften, only for his rage to be brought back when he remembers why he even came back to his homeland in the first place. In general, the characters all made sense to me within the context of the movie, and without spoiling anything, some characters were simply despicable. Like, I'm talking zero redeeming qualities, but they made for, let's just say, interesting scenes. When it comes to Hamlet, I think he was a really, really cool character, and I liked his savage nature, but he was also, he was the son of a king. He does have some kind of notion of like social construct, right? He's not just a savage beast like he's portrayed to be at the very beginning of the movie, right? He's been keeping this anger inside of him the entire time, and it's transformed him into like this warrior, but he still knows how to get what he wants in a way that doesn't make it obvious that he's trying to kill the guy who killed his dad. But anyway, I like the savage nature. I liked how he was. I thought I think it's Alexander Skarsgard, right? That's the actor. He did a really, really, really good job as Hamlet. I really enjoyed his portrayal, and I very much enjoyed Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal of Olga as well. She is the very definition of a ride or die. I can't remember the last time I've seen a character ride or die for another this fucking much. Like, they barely know each other, and just because they have goals that align, she is willing to do anything for this dude. And you know what? Kind of respect it. I think the movie is very well shot, although most of it is spent in darker and very dimly lit environments, which I think is unfortunate because, again, it's a very beautiful landscape that they're filming in. But within the context of the story, it makes 100% sense why it's at night or in dimly lit environments. What I did like the most, however, was the sound design. So the music, the ambient noise, the dialogue, all of it has a very specific objective, and it just sounds so good. It sounds so visceral. Like, for the dialogue, for example, it's very rare for characters to speak without meaning. Almost everything that's said has purpose or informs the audience of later events or current event, and that goes for everything. The music, the ambient noise, everything. It was such a treat to listen to this movie. Although this movie is not perfect, the pacing is a little rough at times, and I feel like simpler storytelling was sometimes sacrificed in favor of a more, let's just say, artsy form of storytelling, which tends to drag sometimes. Another movie that had the same kind of issue is Green Knight. It wants you to think that a shot is nice, or that an environment is pretty, so it lingers on it. But Northman is a much more grittier story, so it doesn't feel that way as much. And the action does kind of bring you back into the movie. So I wouldn't say the stalling is as bad as Green Knight, although I did enjoy Green Knight for reference. I don't think the stalling is as bad as Green Knight, but there is some, like, you know, look at the pretty movie I just put out type of shit going on in the movie. But it definitely feels less like watching a slideshow of pretty pictures as Green Knight is, although again, I did enjoy that movie. I think my biggest problem with the movie, though, is just the fact that I was hoping for more action. And don't get me wrong, I'm very satisfied with what I got, and I'm not an action fiend. Like, I don't need action in my movie 24/7. But the action scenes were so good and so well acted by everyone involved that I just wish we got a little more of it. Like, one of my favorite scenes is actually the raid towards the very beginning of the movie, and that's about as action-packed as things get until the very end. And I think that's kind of a shame, because the trailer sold a different movie, and I'm not here to criticize the movie because of the trailer. Trailers are made by different people, I completely understand that. But I just think that the action in this movie was so good that I just wanted more. Not at the detriment of other scenes that are more, you know, personal, more dialogue, more whatever. Just, I wish we just got more action just because it was so good. It's not really a diss on what we got. It's just, you know, I wish we got more of what was already good. And overall, I'm going to give this movie a 7. It's a much more personal story than I originally thought it would be. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. Again, it's good. But I just don't think that the movie had a perfect balance of story and action.